Hi, my name is Deanna Flournoy, and this is my TED Talk. So, my topic for today is the transatlantic slave trade. So, everyone knows about slavery, the long, hard work enslaved Africans did in the long, hot southern sun, being beaten and worked to death by their owners. Everyone knows this, right? But did you know that slavery was nothing new in Africa? That if one tribe fought the other, the losing tribe became the other tribe's slave. Maybe they didn't use the word slave. Maybe it was something like servant or butler or helper. Does this sound like something similar that we have today or something we wished we had today? We all know the terrible ship ride from Africa to America. Slaves being tied to the bottom of ships in the dark with little or no food. We all heard about this and we all know about this, but have we actually sat down and thought about it? So, slavery lasted 400 years from the 15th century to the 19th century. Over 12 million slaves were transported across the Atlantic Ocean. Can you imagine being taken from your home, shoved and chained and locked into a dark, small room with people who don't even speak the same language as you? In the book Slave Ship, A Human History by Marcus Redart says that the slave ships were floating dungeons. In the book, Redart talks about the whole transatlantic slave trade and goes in depth. When he says slave ships were like floating dungeons, he meant it for both the slaves and sailors. Now think about it. The journey from Africa to either South America or the Caribbean or North America, pretty much wherever ports said they wanted slaves, they would go. That would last about 6 to 10 weeks, if that. So sailors wouldn't know how long these journeys would take, so food was scarce for everybody. Redder goes into talking about how sailors were also outnumbered 10 to 1. So it was very important for sailors to make the slaves fear them so they wouldn't band together and take over the ship. I mean, think about it. There had to be at least 100 slaves on the ship and maybe 15 to 20 sailors. Slaves could easily band together and went home. But obviously, nothing is that simple. Roderick explains that slaves were chained together to the ship. They would have to figure out a way to escape and try to fight back. But sailors weren't stupid. They had plenty of weapons and torture equipment to punish slaves. The sailors came prepared and weren't planning to go down without a fight. So if somehow magically these slaves fought off all the sailors, they would still have to sail the ship home. This was probably the hardest thing they would have to do. In reality, this wouldn't have worked. Redder does state that on average 25 people were killed in each uprising attempt, and only 1 to 10 actually saw uprising. In the book The Slave Ship, A Human History, Redder also goes into talking about the complexity of the whole slave trade, talking about how African tribes will fight each other and the losing tribe will become the other tribe's slave. So when Europeans came to become friends with the African chiefs, they would trade for materials like guns and trade for slaves. And sometimes tribes would trade their enemies so they wouldn't have to deal with them anymore. After the Europeans would load up their ship with slaves, they would take them on a 6 to 10 week journey, maybe more. That long journey to either South America, the Caribbean, or North America and trade for raw materials and take them to Europe, and the cycle will continue. Slavery is one of the most important things in history. It affected everyone, no matter who you are, what skin color you are. is still in effect today, and it still affects everyone. So if you really care about your history, go check out the book The Slave Ship: A Human History by Marcus Redart. Thank you for listening and tuning in.